Now, when we start out, we're going to see that there's 4 artboards. And I'm going to hit Tab on my keyboard. I'm going to do this quite often in Illustrator because it hides everything else and just allows me to see the preview. So if you hit Tab once, when your artboards and all of your tools are displayed, it's going to hide them. And if you hit it again, it's going to show them again. The other thing I do is the letter F on your keyboard. Allows you to be using full screen in Illustrator, and it's very helpful. I design on a laptop, so every bit of screen real estate is important. So you'll notice that we have 4 different artboards, and you can select each artboard by just clicking on them one at a time. And so we're going to start by making some grids and guidelines to make sure that we're drawing everything to the same size and to the same specification and style for each icon. So first thing is we're going to divide up our layers, and we're going to have 4 layers to work with. This makes it easier later when we go back to export things, so we know what we're doing. And I'm just labeling these icon 1 through 4, so we have a way of knowing which we're dealing with. So I like to lock other layers that I'm not working with, just so nothing else gets selected, nothing else gets created. For instance, if I'm bringing in external images that I want to trace, I want to make sure that they're not involved in other layers. So I'm going to turn those off for now, and you can just toggle on the lock key here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw with hitting M to pull up the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a perfect square by holding Shift. If you let go of Shift, you can draw all sorts of funky rectangles. We're going to do Command to draw a perfect square. And what I want to do with this square is I didn't draw it perfectly at 82. That's okay, because in the transform panel, whether down here or up here, I'm going to keep this locked on proportions, and I'm going to turn this to 80. The reason for that is I want to add a little bit of padding, because when we export these, we want to make sure that things aren't running right into the edge of our logo. Now we're going to bring this to the center of the artboard, and if you don't have it locked, what you can do, and I'm going to turn off the fill, we're just going to have an outline for this. What you can do is with this artboard selected, and under your alignment tool, if you align to artboard, you can align the vertical and horizontal centers, so we have it perfectly there. And next what I'm going to do is unlock these layers because I'm going to put my rectangle in them. So if we hold Option while clicking on the square itself, we can actually drag and duplicate. And while holding Shift, we can make sure that it locks into that straight line, so it's not going to go up. So let's go ahead and lock that in here. We're going to duplicate it again, and one last time, just so we have a good baseline to start off with. And I'm going to drag these into their respective layers, just so we keep everything organized from the beginning. It's incredibly important that you keep things organized, especially when icon libraries get a lot larger. You'll be glad you did it later. So we have these icons, placeholders set up right now. And what I'm going to do is, after selecting all of these, I'm actually going to bring the opacity down to 50%. We want to just keep these as visible as we need them, but not too much so they get in the way. And the other thing too is if you hit Command Y or Control Y if you're on a Windows, you can see outline mode. And what we're going to do later is making sure that everything's lined up and everything is drawn correctly. This is like, think of it as X-ray vision for your Illustrator icons. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw lines on top of the grid to make sure that we have our center points ready. So the first boxes were set up so that we had the right padding. And the second lines are going to be to make sure that we have centered objects and we have things in the right ratio if we're going to be doing grid drawing later. So again, make sure that these are centered. And you can use your alignment tool here. Using the eyedropper by hitting the letter I can actually duplicate the style of the other ones. So again, we're going to keep it at 50% opacity. And what I'm going to do actually now is Command G to group this set. And so what that allows me to do is drag a single grouping so that nothing gets out of order or gets lost in the file itself. We can drag this into here. And these are all things that are great to do, just helping getting set up early to make sure that nothing gets lost, and it really helps later on with the organizational process.